Let's close with the story about the Star-Spangled Banner as you have never heard it before. There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you are aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words to that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we are singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you the story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with their mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the proactiveness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners, and the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore, and they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials, and they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you. Tonight you are free. Tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies, he said. You'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. And he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore. The admiral came over and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we still will honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll merely be academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of. You see that fort right over there, Fort McHenry, he said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. Key said, how are you going to do that? The admiral said, if you will scan the horizon, you will see. As Key looked, he gazed upon hundreds of little dots. And the admiral said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. The fleet will be here within striking distance in a matter of 2.5 hours. He said, this war is over. These men would be free anyway. Key, he said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He said, it's predominantly not a military fort. The admiral said, don't worry. He said, we've left them a way out. He said, what's that? The admiral said, do you see that flag way up there on the rampart? He said, we have told them if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately and we'll know that they have surrendered. And you'll know and be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen, and they said, how many ships? And he said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up top, and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, as the haze hung over the oceans, as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. Bam, bam. He said the sounds were deafening. He said there were so many guns. There were no relief. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all you could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, "Tell us, where is the flag? What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us." 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb. And Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, "It's still up. It's not down." The admiral came and he said, "Your people are insane." He said, "What's the matter with them?" He said, "They don't understand. This is an impossible situation." Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had once said. He said, "The thing that sets American Christians apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he lives on his knees." The admiral said, "We have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down." He said, "We don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that." But he said, "Now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on just that one point." Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful, and that he could hear the men down below praying the prayer, "God, keep that flag flying," where we saw it last. Sunrise came. Key said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key immediately went into Fort McHenry to see what had happened. And what he had found had happened was that the flagpole and the flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, that men, fathers who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place, and Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, for the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet fly and wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?" The debt was demanded, the price it was paid. And here are the actual lyrics. "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars, though the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, we were so gallantly streaming in the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? On the shore dimly seen through the mist of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze o'er the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning before first beam, in full glory reflected now shines on the stream. The Star-Spangled Banner, oh, long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." Ladies and gentlemen, I thought you might enjoy the true story of our Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, and our national song that resulted from all of it 250 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of tonight's call. I appreciate it more than you know. I hope that I've helped you become a better you, because as you know, You have helped me become a better me. It's through practice. It's through dedication. It's through determination. It's through doing what you say you will do when you say you will do it.